Welcome, everyone. My name is Kristin Lortie. I am here with Brevard News, your trusted news source, sitting in as your moderator for Kevin Jeffrey. We have had quite a week this week. I am joined by County Commission candidate D1 Katie Delaney and local environmental justice advocate Stel Bailey. So we have a lot to tell you about, so we're going to get going here. And I just want to start with you, Katie, and ask you a quick question tell me a little bit about how this week went.
Right, so this was a pretty busy week for us. On Monday, it started off with a meeting at Parrish Medical Center, and there were some interesting things that went on there. And then on Tuesday, we had the County Commission meeting, and there were definitely some fireworks going on at that meeting this week. And then fast forward to Saturday, we had a meet and greet with all the candidates, and mostly North Brevard candidates, but we had some constitutional officers there and some congressional candidates as well.
Wow, that sounds really exciting. And I believe that Stel was at a couple of those events as well. So looking forward to hearing more about this.
Yeah.
So Katie, start us off. Tell us about the Parrish meeting and how that went and why were you there? How'd you end up at a Parrish meeting?
So basically, I saw a article got posted on, I think, the Talk of Titusville on Facebook, and it was basically about their changes to their pension plan for their employees at Parrish Medical Center. And there were loads of comments under that. And so because I'm running for District 1 County Commission, I really felt like I wanted to see firsthand what was going on. And it was it was pretty interesting. I walked in the room and there was probably about 10 to 15 employees there in the audience. And because these meetings aren't video recorded, I wanted to make sure that I recorded the meeting. And as I was recording, it was really interesting. Herman Cole, one of the board members, who's also a sitting City of Titusville council person, he actually went and got the security guard. And the security guard came over to me and told me to stop recording. And so I stopped recording. I politely said to the security officer that I'm pretty sure that we're allowed to record here because it's a public meeting. And so then the security officer went to the lawyer, and the lawyer said to them that, yes, I am allowed to video because it is a public meeting. So then I turned my camera back on.
Well, isn't that interesting? So we have Herman Cole, sitting city council person, interrupting your right to record.
Right.
And here they're recording a meeting which is for the benefit of the employees.
Right.
It's a public meeting, but it's for the benefit of the employees. So without going into too much detail, how did the meeting go, and were the employees satisfied with this meeting that was interrupted, where the recording was interrupted?
Unfortunately, no. The employees were very distressed about what was happening because they were promised something with this pension, and it's being taken away from them, and instead they're getting a lump sum, which is turning out to be far less money than what they would have gotten if they would have gotten this pension. So a lot of people are really hurting because of this decision.
Well, that sounds very troubling.
Yeah.
And then when you think about the board that is there, some of those, who is that board appointed by?
So the board is appointed by County Commission and the City of Titusville. So the City of Titusville gets to appoint 3 people. The County Commission gets to appoint 3 people, and then the City of Titusville is able to appoint 3 more people with the approval of the County Commission.
Wow, so it's a hybrid effort to select these people that are on the board itself.
Exactly.
And they're making decisions that are currently being protested by some of the employees.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Well, that's an interesting moment on the Parrish. Thanks for being there, because it sounds like you were you were a helpful voice to make sure that someone missed the meeting, outside of just the employees and the board.
Right. I really care about what's going on in our community, and Parrish is such a large employer for our community in North Brevard that I really wanted to get firsthand knowledge of what was going on there.
Sounds excellent to have had someone there.
Not only were you a voice, but you brought transparency by trying to video record it and show the community what was happening there in that meeting. A lot of times those meetings are not illuminated. And so that is thank you for that. We need more people doing that.
Yes, and especially when we get to the county commission meeting, which it almost segues into our county commission meeting that happened on Tuesday.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
a single day later,
Right.
you went to the county commission meeting. Both of you were at the county commission meeting in person. So how was that?
This was probably one of the most disturbing county commission meetings I've been to thus far. Someone was almost thrown out of the meeting simply for saying,
Really?
yeah, simply for saying that their card wasn't addressed.
And so we know, just so we positive that their speaker card, is that right?
Right.
They have to put in a speaker card in order to speak. And this person had put in a speaker card. Did they put it in or not put it in?
They did.
They
did.
had put it in, and they were
Mhm.
trying to alert the commission that they wanted to speak
Exactly.
prior to the vote,
Mhm.
correct? And so I was watching the meeting remotely, so I have some experience just from the viewer standpoint.
Right.
But you guys were there in person.
Mhm.
So what did you see in person that might not have come across on the cameras?
A lot. So I was sitting in front of this individual who
Let's go ahead and name the individual.
Sure,
Who was it?
sure. It
let's
was
make sure
Sandra
people know.
Sullivan.
Sandra Sullivan. She regularly speaks at the commission meetings, right? And she does not always agree with the commissioners. Would that
Correct.
be fair to
That
say?
would be fair to say.
Okay, so
yes.
tell us more about what happened to Sandra Sullivan.
Well, she was behind me, so of course I couldn't see her. But there was a moment where they acted as if there was no speaking cards, and she just spoke up and she said, "I have a speaker card in." That's what I heard behind me. And then chaos erupted. I just remember turning around because she was told to be taken out by police officers.
And who told that? Who said that?
Rita Pritchett.
Rita Pritchett. Okay, so we just want to make sure we weren't all there. It was
Mhm.
Rita
Right.
Pritchett that suggested that Sandra be taken out by police officers.
Yes,
Right.
and
At
then
the meeting.
yes.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Okay.
Steele was also involved in that correspondence as well. There was so much that happened when you're in the meeting.
Right.
It is so different from when you're watching it
At home, because we
home.
can't hear everything or see anything that's going on in the audience.
Yes.
So what did you see in the room?
Well, I saw these police officers walk towards her and her get up and start walking out. Katie got up and started video recording because, in my opinion, this was a violation of her rights. And I saw some commotion happening. There was somebody that motioned over to the county attorney, and the county attorney finally gave input. Again, a lot happened in that moment. I was really appalled. I was already, after sitting in there for hours before this even occurred, the unprofessionalism and the back and forth with citizens within that room was already alarming to me. This is probably by far the worst that I've seen interactions happening in this
Locally
county
or at the
commission.
county commission?
At the county
At the
commission
county
level.
commission, okay.
Yes. And I haven't been in a while, so this is the first time I'm coming back. I'm seeing this tension. It was the feeling in the room was a tension. I saw tension. There was even a moment during the 5-minute recess that you do not see on that video.
On the recorded meeting, because these
yes.
meetings are recorded.
Mm-hmm. Where they turn off the cameras, and
So there was a break.
There was a break.
The
Yeah,
chairman Steele called for a break.
Yes, and when they have a break, normally they put you on a pause on at home. And there was a moment where Commissioner Steele started going back and forth with Sandra Sullivan. I don't know what she said. I don't know. There was something that sparked him to start. I mean, in my opinion, from what I heard, he was yelling so loudly. I was towards the back of the room.
Right.
So the chairman was yelling
Mhm.
at an attendee of
Right.
the meeting that you could hear in the back of the room.
Yes.
Wow. On a break.
Mhm.
Right.
Wow. So this is jarring. I mean, it's just jarring to even hear about. So when was Sandra allowed back in? Like what did, and she, from what I saw on the video, she did come up and she was able to speak prior to the vote being taken on that item.
She was.
But it sounds like the room was rattled at that point.
Mhm.
Yes.
There was multiple comments on social media about this occurrence, and this was one of the most memorable
Yes.
parts of the meeting for people who attended in person.
I don't understand why the commission couldn't just say, okay, I think she probably put in a card, let's just hear her speak. To me, it says a lot that they're working harder to silence people, take them out of the room, create
Right.
all this commotion. I really think about that. We've got these people up there that are supposed to be looked at as leadership.
Right.
People who are in these positions that are supposed to be professional, representing the citizens. And a way to really represent is to put aside those differences and say, you have a right to speak on this agenda item. You have a right to be heard. And they should have put that aside, and they should have just allowed her to come up. That would have solved every issue. But instead, they wanted to create this insane scenery that has left a mark on the attendees that were there.
Right.
Wow. And tying this back in with Parrish and then with prior episodes, even in Brevard News, where the police presence was talked about in Titusville,
Right.
at the meetings,
Mhm.
at the workshop, at the for the April 23rd meeting, at the groundbreaking,
Right,
for
for the
the
bridge.
walkway
Mhm.
project. Like, what is going on with all of this police presence? So this just seems to be another indicator that things are amiss. Something is
right.
not going quite right, that our elected officials are now interfering by
Right.
inserting themselves and using police presence at
Right.
our meetings. Wow.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a moment ago about the interruption and how they could have just solved it with public participation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the rest of the meeting. I mean, that sounds very disturbing, and we'll acknowledge that. But was anyone interrupted during the rest of the meeting? Because how did the rest of it go? You said that it wasn't that cohesive of a meeting to begin with. So, Katie, were you interrupted in the meeting, or who?
I actually was interrupted twice.
Twice during the meeting.
Right, yes.
Tell us.
So the first time I was speaking under an agenda item that had to do with the public comment policy. And Commissioner Goodson was bringing forward a positive change to our public comment policy, making it available for citizens to comment at the beginning of the meeting rather than just the end of the meeting.
And how did that come out that they're doing it at the end of the meeting anyway?
I think that they were trying, honestly, I think that they were trying to punish citizens and make
And
them have to wait.
I have some
till
history
the
on
end.
that. It happened a year ago. So
Right.
backlash a year ago, they were arguing about where to put the public comment, and they
Right.
put it at the end of the meeting, trying
Yeah.
to get the cameras off. They've been playing games with this citizen
Exactly.
participation. So now Commissioner Goodson tries to do something good,
Right.
and put it back at the beginning of the meeting.
Right.
And how did that go?
So I was actually stopped in the middle of my public comment. I was saying thank you to Commissioner Goodson for making these changes. And I also wanted to talk about the consent agenda because that is a part of this same policy. And while I was trying to speak about the consent agenda, I wanted the monetary value of the consent items to be on the agenda so that people can see it easily.
To make it
Right.
more visible.
And I was stopped, and they told me that that wasn't relevant to what we were talking about, and so I didn't want to make a fuss. So I was like, I'll just talk about it during another opportunity.
But how amazing is that? You have a public participation policy.
Right.
And how many speakers were there on that policy?
Me,
It
one.
was just you, our single
Right.
member of the public who is there to speak
Right.
on the public participation policy, gets interrupted when not only did you get interrupted, but you're trying to cast light on a lack of visibility issue,
Right.
and which you were immediately shut down by the chairman of the meeting.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a moment.
And then so the second time was during my public comment opportunity at the end of the meeting. And that one, I was wanting to talk about the aerosols that are being released into the air because of the muck dredging. And they were saying that...
And this is over on Merritt Island, right?
Right.
So we know, okay.
So, but I wasn't just talking about the one specific project. I was speaking in general about why are we not testing the air for these toxic aerosols that are getting released when we're muck dredging.
And what happened then?
And so Commissioner Tobiah, I could see him itching to press that button to interrupt me.
To interrupt a speaker.
Right. So I looked over at him and I said, I see you itching to press that button, Commissioner. And so he stopped me, and then we kind of went back and forth about was my comment relevant or not to...
Because Commissioner Tobiah likes to read the policy, and
Right.
it says that you have to comment on a non-agenda item.
Exactly.
And you were commenting on what he considered an agenda item.
Right.
And so he was interrupting your public comment, which you hadn't
Exactly.
been able to make under the agenda item,
Right.
in order to say you can't speak here. I mean, wow. how petty is that?
Right.
How small is that to, once again, censor the public from speaking based on a technicality?
And
Right.
my point of view was, who cares how many
Right.
times you speak on a topic? The citizens should get to speak on that topic, on any topic that they feel is necessary. And so I'm very pro citizen engagement. I think that um, we need as much citizen involvement as possible.
That sounds like a great move for a candidate and for saying that you have something different that you want to offer
Right.
if you are elected into this position.
Exactly.
And thank you for your
Thank
participation
you.
on that. So before we leave the commission, I mean, there was such a rich meeting. I mean, the
Mhm.
train station,
Oh yeah.
I mean, should we mention that? The train station, and that was part of what led to what preceded, I think, this thing with Sandra.
Mhm.
I
Right.
think her thing was on the Economic Development Commission. There were so many moments in the meeting.
Right.
But the train station was approved for another $5 million of funding from the county that
Exactly.
they were discussing. So, how was that received? And any comments, any observations on that, on the train funding?
I mean, the room was filled with, you had Cocoa politicians
Mhm.
there to represent Cocoa, because I know
Mhm.
that they're talking about doing a stop there. It seemed like there were lobbyists in the room. I'm not sure
Mhm.
exactly who they were. I didn't see a lot of citizens there participating on behalf of the train situation, but I also didn't see that participation prior to this meeting.
Right.
I feel like there should have been community meetings held to have this discussion. And so, you look around in a room going, why are there so many politicians
Right.
sitting around me to talk on this? It just doesn't seem citizen driven.
The
Right.
question is where's the citizen support? That's the
Right.
question I wonder, because you had mayors coming up talking about it, you had business owners from Cocoa Village coming up and talking about it, you had the Cocoa politicians and the city manager and the city public information you had all these people
yeah.
talking about it. Where's the robust citizen engagement,
Yeah.
and where is that in Cocoa? I'm a Cocoa resident. I believe you're a Cocoa resident. Where's the support for the train that's inherent to the city?
Right.
And then we had the chairman of the meeting who was also trying to get support, putting on his own Facebook page
Right.
that he wanted people to come down and talk at the meeting and support the train station on his own Facebook account.
Exactly.
I mean, wow, right?
Right.
I mean, where is the citizen support for it, and why are we getting all this funding, and then why are the politicians driving the funding for this?
And the other question that I have is, why is there not more transparency into what this project actually is? Because they keep talking about just a train station, but then now there's also rumors about there possibly being restaurants, hotel, all these different things. So we want to know, what is the actual project?
And we finally got to see a presentation at the meeting of the multimodal train
Right.
station. And it's much more than just the train
Right.
station. It looks like there could be a hotel, other amenities.
Right.
And this is a huge, huge project that's going to be a lot more than just the cost of the train station, about the funding. And it's really the first time that I'd seen a robust presentation
Right.
even on the train station. So once there's funding at stake, what occurred to me is,
Mhm.
oh, okay, now we have another $5 million of funding. Now we'll get the representatives
Right.
in, including the Brightline representative, including all the officials, and now we'll put together a presentation.
And the weird thing is that just because they do a presentation on something, there's nothing binding on that. So even though they showed us what this plan is, there's nothing binding to that. So it literally could be anything.
The one person that was asking questions was Commissioner Tobias.
Yeah.
He was questioning about the numbers, and the basis of the numbers. So,
Right.
and what happened was it was a split vote, 3-2, that passed it with Tobias abstaining, and he really led the reader to say this, this numbers did just make sense to him. And then Feltner didn't even give a reason. I didn't hear a
Right.
reason for his reason to say, for him
Mhm.
saying no. So regardless, it is moving forward. So now we're moving forward with this funding, but it did leave some questions in the minds of people that were attending, is what
Right.
you're saying.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anything else from the meeting before we go to the meet and greet? That was it was like I said, there was just so many moments that you saw from it, but it wasn't a
Oh,
cohesive meeting. Go ahead.
The firefighters, they
Oh.
came in force. They were the negotiations have been going on for a while for their salaries, and so the firefighters came out because they're talking about doing an executive session to hopefully get these men and women some real numbers that they can look forward to, and that they can be paid what they're worth. compared to their counterparts in other areas. So that was a good moment. I was glad to see them all out.
I found that very interesting too, because it was a consent agenda item, but then they had a speaker on it that was announced, and then they had several speakers. Like
Right.
they had to be 6 to 7 speakers, I
Oh,
think,
yeah.
that talked about it. So it's worth a watch to go through and hear that.
Right.
And they added a lot to the discussion about the local pay for the firefighters. So
For
that's
sure.
worth going back to look at the recording of. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. So good. So it was quite a meeting there on the commissioner side of it.
Yeah.
So now we're in election season right now, and we're moving towards the election, and we had the meet and greet yesterday for the candidates up in North Brevard. So how did that go?
I thought it was a great experience. It was like candidate row. We all set up tables down a walkway, and citizens and community members got to come and chat with all of us, and it was just a really great community moment. I love any time that all of us candidates get to speak, because not only do the citizens get to see what we're all about, they get to see right there what our competition is about. And it's great for them to be able to get that quick contrast.
Agree.
So-
It was very interesting. We do have clips of that, and so in the Brevard Cares group, there are clips of several of the speakers. I ran into some storage space, but there were some very interesting moments. Stel, you were also there. What did you notice at the meet and greet?
There were several things that I noticed. I was really impressed with the setup of the entire meeting, but I also appreciated that each candidate had 3 minutes to speak. I think that's a really important and impactful moment, because those are the moments that you can really navigate the discussion and the details, get into the weeds of who your candidates are, what they're really about, and their why. I always ask, why are you a politician? Why are you doing this? And I also appreciate, and there were a few people, including Katie here, who went through the problems, but also the solutions. I see a stark difference when people are up there talking, and some of them are talking a lot about themselves and things that really people aren't paying attention to, whether it's, I grew up here and that's why you should vote for me. And then you have a difference of somebody up there saying, I've been meeting with the community. I've been in the community. I have been listening to the community, and they're able to break down exactly what the community is telling them. And they're also going through what kind of solutions can we tell the community on these issues that we're facing. And there are a lot of issues. And so I really appreciate it. It was actually my first ever meet and greet. I've been to debates, but I really liked the personal feel to it, to where you could have one-on-one time with the candidates. You could have these raw discussions with them. You could ask them questions. And then you had that moment. I really, really took that seriously, listening to each candidate, what they had to say. I think every Brevard County resident should have this opportunity, and more than once.
That all sounds great, and voters really need to understand the importance of these. When we get out and we ask the candidates, what is it that you believe in, we listen to what they have to say, we're going to make much more informed decisions. So, Stel, were there any standouts on that citizen side? You said you mentioned Katie.
Yes, Katie.
She talked about citizenry. Anyone else that you
Vicky.
want to note? Vicky Conklin. That was a very interesting moment and a reveal, because Vicky Conklin is a new mayor candidate for the city of Titusville, and she has just filed just last week, I believe it was on Friday, that she filed her paperwork, and then she's already at the meet and greet on Saturday, and she gave her speech. What did you think of her speech?
Well, what I liked about her is she was able to bring forward advocacy that she's already done. And she's already done so much for the community. So I feel like when you have candidates that come forward, and like you said, she had just announced it. It was nice to see that she was there telling us what she was doing for her neighborhood, her community. She's been fighting so hard. I was really impressed by her. And there was Christopher Childs. He was there as well and speaking. He's running for the city of Titusville Council, and he got to speak. And
What about Megan Moscoso?
Oh, yes. She
Megan
had her
Moscoso.
daughter up there. It was
Yeah,
a really
that was
good moment. It really showed her human side as well, where,
Right.
I'm a mom and I'm up here fighting for my community.
That sounds awesome. And so, Katie, tell us whether it's a candidate that you that you said, hey, I really like what they said, or there was a few moments in that where there was a little bit of poking. Tell me more about that.
Well, I think that it's important to know, as a citizen, who the people really are that are candidates. And for me, like I said, I went to the Parrish meeting, and one of my opponents is the chairman of the Parrish Hospital,
And that his name is?
Robert Jordan.
Thank you.
And he was there, and I mentioned that I went to this meeting and that the board as a whole, they showed very little care for their employees when they were telling them their concerns, and that really offended him. So
Did he say anything about it during his share?
oh yeah, he said that that's not true, that he cares very much for his employees. But if I were an employer of that large of a operation, I would make sure that my employees are taken care of. So
So it's an interesting contrast because
Right.
sometimes in some of these formats, everything can seem so polite that nobody really brings up the issue. So it
Right.
sounds like we had at least one issue
Oh,
that
yeah.
got brought up. So did you feel like it was an honest format that people could
I do,
say
but
enough of themselves to reveal?
I do, but I also believe that constituents like myself, we need to get well versed in some of these issues enough to where we know how to question and hold these people to the fire. Because if you don't know the information and you're not educated in it, they know how to, do
Press the levers.
spins.
Right.
Yes.
They can do a spin. That's exactly
Yes,
right.
exactly. And so I think it's really important that not only do we get involved and we encourage citizen engagement, we need to get back to that. We've lost that as a society. We need people to really be watching and illuminating what is happening, but also we need people to be well versed in a lot of these issues so they know when a politician is not
know what the difference.
Yep.
And to be watching broadcasts like this to learn
Right.
a little bit more about those issues. So we have the clips available in Brevard Cares, and we're looking out for more meet and greets.
Right.
Hopefully we'll have some of these. This is early in the season yet, so hopefully we'll have much more. Well, as we're wrapping up, what about this coming week? What do we have going on in this week? So it sounds like it was a very interesting day yesterday. I too found it a very interesting day. Now we're moving forward, and we have a couple of meetings that are coming up this week. One, we have the Titusville City Council meeting.
Right.
That's at 6:30 on Tuesday, and we encourage participation in that, especially after we've had these couple of weeks of a lot of interaction from citizens asking city council members for more transparency and accountability, citizen engagement. This is a great time to be supporting the Titusville meeting. And then we have the Titusville TEC meeting, and that's on Wednesday at 5:30 at City Council Chambers.
Right.
And TEC stands for Titusville Environmental Commission.
Thank you.
correct?
Titusville Environmental Commission, exactly. Thank you for pointing that out. And one of the items that I know that's on the TEC meeting is there has been a motion, there's an agenda item to remove the first public comment from the beginning of the meeting. Now, I know how I feel about that. I feel pretty passionately, but how do you guys feel about that? And does it motivate you to think about attending the meeting?
Oh yeah, I'll definitely be there. I'm opposed to them taking away that first opportunity for the public to speak because, like I've said many times, the more public engagement we can get, the better. And the nice thing about the first public comment is that the public can come and give their ideas to the commission, and then the commission can then talk about those things possibly, and maybe they can play into some of their decision making.
And by the way, your very agenda item at the county commission was after they tried to move
Right.
it just to the end and look at the problems that raised.
Exactly.
So now we have this, and then because we were there were two of us were there at the last meeting, we saw that the chairman of the TEC is supporting this removal of the
Right.
public comment. She's supporting this because she thinks that it would be better at the end and it would make a more cohesive meeting. But wow,
Right.
the chairperson of the meeting. So isn't that an interesting moment on Wednesday at 5:30 that some of us will be weighing in on?
And one of the things that I also noticed at these meetings, why the first public comment is so important, is because by the end of the meeting, everyone's toast. They're done,
That's
you
right.
know? And so are they even listening to us?
And the people have had to stay there through that whole meeting.
Right.
Just like the commission meeting where people are having to stay for 3 and 4 hours to make a public comment.
Right.
It feels like it's done by design to wear you out or to make you feel, because people have lives. Right now, people are struggling. They're trying to put food on the table for their families.
Right.
They're working full-time jobs, sometimes second jobs. So for them to take their time out of their evening to go to these meetings, these chairmen, these politicians that continue to make these policies and change these things, what they are doing is eroding trust
Right.
with the citizens. They're only making decisions that erode the trust of people.
Right.
And by taking away these public comments, these little things, they add up. And I
Right.
think people are fed up. I think that they're seeing what's going on. They're seeing it happen across the county. Now they're seeing it happen on boards. Our voices matter.
There can be a momentum. There is a momentum shifting this year, and citizens are saying we want something different on numerous fronts.
Right.
So we are getting engaged. So we encourage people to go to the meetings this week. We also have to get informed. We have the Fight for Zero. Stel, you are the founder of the Fight for Zero Brevard, that's seeking the environmental justice in Brevard. We have the Advocates Voice, where you are the founder of that as well, online publication. We have the Brevard Care Citizens Coalition, where we want you to go and get informed, where we're posting every day.
On Facebook.
On Facebook. Thank you for the reminder. Katie, thanks for the reminder. So these are the places that you can get informed between our episodes here. We hope that you will come back next week. And what you can do for this, for us, is, and for the whole community, really, for all of Brevard, is get informed, get engaged, watch these episodes, like, share, and tell a friend about it to keep the message getting out there that Brevard wants something different this year. Thank you for joining us. We can't wait to see you next time.